السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. طلابنا الأعزاء، طلاب مدرسة مصطفى كامل الرسمية المتميزة للغات ببنها محافظة القليوبية، أهلا بكم جميعا في وحدة مدرسة مصطفى كامل الرسمية للغات للتعلم عن بعد. واليوم درس جديد لمادة اللغة الإنجليزية لطلاب المرحلة الثانوية، الصف الأول الثانوي، منهج المستوى الرفيع، قسم الأدب. Dear students at Mustafa Kamel Official Language School, warm welcome to our online learning unit for the secondary stage, and this is our first lesson transmitted to you all on poetry. So our first lesson is to explain William Wordsworth's Daffodils. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to learn a brief note about William Wordsworth. You will be able to read the stanzas of the poem Daffodils, and you will be able to explain the poem in a simple way and identify the figures of speech. At the end, you will be able to answer some questions. In our first part, we're going to give you a brief note about William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth was born in the Lake District of Northern England, the second of 5 children of a modest, prosperous estate manager. And he lost his mother when he was only 7 years old, and after that he lost his father when he was only 13. And as being orphan boys, all his sisters and brothers were sent off by guardian uncles to a grammar school at Hawkshade, which is a village in the heart of Lake District. At Hawkshade, Wordsworth received an excellent education in classics, in literature, and mathematics, but the chief advantage to him there was the chance to indulge in the boyhood pleasures of living and playing in the out. William Wordsworth was one of the founders of the English Romanticism, and one of its central figures and important intellects. He is remembered as a poet of spiritual poetry, and being located in Lake District of England, which was an area that would become closely associated with Wordsworth for over 2 centuries after his death, and this affected his writing most. He began writing poetry as a young boy in grammar school, and before graduating from college he went on a walking tour of Europe, which deepened his love for nature and his sympathy for the common man, and these were his major themes in his poetry. Now, in this part of our session, you are going to listen to the lines to the stanzas recited on music, so please listen and enjoy.
Pearls of Wisdom, Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads and sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft when on my couch I lie, in waken or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils.
So please listen again and try to say with the lines.
Pearls of Wisdom, Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads and sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils.
Now, on this part of our session, we are going to paraphrase the stanzas. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. As you see here, the rhyme scheme for the stanza here is A, B, A, B, C, C. So if we want to paraphrase this stanza, we could say that the poet was walking around alone like a cloud that is wandering in the sky, when he suddenly, beside the lake and under some trees, he saw a large number of yellow daffodils moving in the wind as though they were dancing. Continuous as the star that shines and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in a never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 I saw at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. So the rhyme scheme here is A, D, E, D, E, F, F. So the daffodils stretched in a long line along the edge of the lake. They looked like the stars that shine at the night in the Milky Way in the sky. They are stretching along the margin of a bay, and when the poet looked there, they saw thousands of daffodils moving their heads in a beautiful dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. So the rhyme scheme here again is GH, GH, I. Here, if we want to paraphrase this stanza, we could say the water in the lake beside the daffodils are moving as if they were dancing like the flowers. But the daffodils seem to be happier than the water, and in such company with water and daffodils, the poet is filled with happiness too. So he gazed and he looked deeply, and then he thought that he has been given a great gift because he was in such a happy company with the flowers and the water. In the last stanza, for oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mode, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude, and then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. Now, it often happens when the poet is lying on his bed, feeling unhappy or thoughtful. So the word vacant means that he is unhappy, and the word pensive mode means that he is thoughtful. So he suddenly remembers the daffodils, and this is the heavenly happiness that comes to him when he is alone. So at this time his heart fills with pleasure, and he remembers the daffodils and dances with them. In the last part of our session, we are going to discuss together some figures of speech on the following stanzas. In stanza 1, as you see here, there are two figures of speech, contrast and personification. So if you look at the words highlighted in yellow, I wandered lonely, I saw a crowd. There is a contrast between these two phrases, lonely and a crowd, because the poet was alone when he saw a crowd of daffodils, a group of daffodils. The words here written in blue, over vales and hills beneath the trees, are also contrast, so he can see the daffodils everywhere, over the vales and hills and beneath the trees, under the trees. So we have two contrasts here in stanza number 1. The words highlighted in blue, floats and dancing, there is personification in these two words. The poet here personifies the daffodils as humans that can float or dance. In the second stanza, the words highlighted in yellow, stars that shine, continuous as the stars that shine. The poet here likens the daffodils as stars that shine, so there is a simile here in this phrase. There is also personification in the phrase tossing their heads. So the poet here is giving the daffodils a characteristic of a human, that they have heads and they can toss it, they can move it. So in the third stanza, you can see the word or the phrase highlighted in yellow, beside them dance. There is also personification. The poet is giving the daffodils the characteristic of a person who can dance. So there are a lot of personifications in stanza 2 and in stanza 3. So at the end of our session, I hope that you find this recording beneficial and useful to you. Thank you, my dear students. Hope you all success.